that we haven't really discussed since our last presentation. So, okay, having said that, let me go ahead and start with our video wall monitor. So just a really quick history. So Viewz has been a key player at the video wall market for quite some time, and as you know, there are other brands that are out there that are better known than we are, but we're the value leader in this market sector. So we tout to be way more cost effective than some of the better known brands out there. And I can name some brands like NEC and Barco. Those are typically our chief competitors, especially in the Latin American market. But that's always been our strong attribute with our products, is that we're really cost effective while providing pretty much the same quality or sometimes even better quality. The panels are all pretty much coming from the same source. So we source our monitor panels from the best source that are available. So pretty much as far as the quality and everything's concerned, we're on par with a lot of these larger brands like NEC and Barco, but you'll find that time to time we're way more cost effective than some of these brands that are out there. So let me go ahead with our Untitled Series video wall monitors. So this is so UN, part of the model number, stands for ultra narrow bezel. As the name indicates, these are super narrow at 1.2 millimeter bezel width and combined 2.4 active to active millimeters, which is very, very small. And the whole key with obviously video wall is that you want to have as thin of a bezel as possible to make these monitors seem seamless when they're combined together in a video wall fashion. So 1.2 millimeters, once again, that's very industry competitive, and the prices that we offer in these models are also very, very competitive, especially in comparison to brands like Barco and NEC once again. These also have the functionality for what we call daisy chaining. So these monitors can actually chain together in a singular fashion. So for instance, the way that becomes an advantage having a daisy chaining option is that monitors can be linked together, and even if you only have a single output coming from a video wall processor, you can actually have that one output connect to all of the monitors. When you go beyond a certain number of monitors, you will need to obviously boost that signal. I think beyond 8 monitors, typically you would need to boost the signal to make sure that the impedance level is not lost. But otherwise, you can actually have one output that drives video images to up to 8 monitors without needing any other implementations. So that's something, if you're trying to do a cost-effective way of building a video wall, that daisy chaining option is actually a really good option to have. It also has mullion compensation. I'll explain that in a little bit what that does, as well as frame compensation. These are all wide viewing angle panels. That's something important to remember, so that even if you're so wide angle viewing means even if you're not looking at the monitor from directly in the front, you will still get a non-distorted clear image. Monitors that typically don't have a wide viewing angle option, you will see that when you're seeing the monitor image from off to the side, that everything is kind of blurry, and you can't, I mean, if you sit behind monitors on airplanes, for instance, if you can't really see what your next passenger's watching. That's because those monitors are not wide viewing angles. So it is the opposite of that effect. These also have high contrast ratio, so 5,000 to 1. Digital and analog interfaces, complementary serial control software, so you can actually control some of the functionalities, like how to turn power on and off, and also controlling some of the key functions like the color control and things like that. Collectively, using a RS-232 connection, so you don't have to individually adjust that per monitors, and that's an important thing of the video wall and having these kinds of functionalities. When you combine these monitors together, they are actually working as one monitor essentially. So You want to make sure that they are all functioning in that way, and you can get to the basic functions collectively through serial connection, and make sure that you're applying the same values to all monitors. If you're changing like the color and things like that, for instance, or if you're turning the monitors on and off, you don't have to, turn them off individually one by one. So that having that serial connection is a very useful thing. It can also support up to 4K resolution in the 2x2 configuration. These are all commercial grade A-grade panels. So these panels all have different grades. So some of the not so great monitors are going to be less than grade A. Sometimes they're going to be grade B, B plus, sometimes even grade C panels are used for these kinds of video monitors. So that's a good thing to have with a um, commercial monitor. And these are available as 49 and 55-inch models. So the 49-inch model is called the VZ-49 UNBS, and the 55-inch model is VZ55 UNBS. So this diagram explains the daisy chain capability. So once again, UNBS video wall monitors have the unique ability to connect together and display the input source via only one output from a video server processor, as opposed to requiring individual outputs. So that's typically called, when you require individual outputs, that's called a home run configuration. This is a daisy chain once again. So you're coming from one source, and from there it connects to one monitor, and then from that monitor it goes to the other monitor. So as you can see, it is a daisy chain like this. This is a more cost-effective way of doing things. So this diagram right here actually demonstrates how, if in a security monitoring station configuration, as an example, a visual on VMS server connecting to the input of this, this is our what we call a multi-viewer. This is a more cost-effective video wall processor, if you will, which has 4 inputs and 1 output. So it'll go into one of the 4 outputs, and then from there, from its 1 output, it goes out to 1 monitor once again, and then it daisy chains from there. So that explains the daisy chain capability. So even if you're not using our multi-viewer per se, even if you're using somebody else's multi-viewer that has only 1 output, if you have daisy chain capability with these monitors, that's something that allows you to just once again use 1 output only, and then connect to 1 monitor, and then from there connect to all the other monitors in this fashion. So a very useful feature to have once again. We also have the slightly more thinner bezel monitors. So this is Ibxt Series. So this is extremely narrow, 0.9 millimeters. Active would be 1.8 millimeters. So even thinner than the ultra narrow bezel models. So there are certain requirements. Sometimes when you have tenders or bids, it'll be spec'd out for video monitors that have bezel as thin as this. So when you have to meet those requirements, that's what these monitors are for. These don't have the daisy chain capability, however. So this is slightly different than the UNBS series, but otherwise, pretty much most of the features are similar. These are all also wide viewing angles at 178 degrees. The contrast ratio is a little bit lower on this one, 3500 to 1. These are the available interfaces: so HDMI, DVI, VGA, USB. Also composite connection, S-Video. I'm not sure if anyone is using S-Video nowadays. RCA for audio, and also RS-232 connection. So you can collectively control these monitors once again through RS-232 to power them on and off collectively, and so forth. These also have built-in image rotation feature. All of our monitors actually have that feature, and that's something that prevents the monitors from getting what's called a pixel burn-in. So you don't get a burn-in from a static image that just because if you have something that's showing the same thing that's been showing for a long time, it'll eventually burn into the panel. So image rotating slightly And this is not something that you can easily detect with your naked eyes. So it's something that's very, very subtle, but that'll definitely prevent pixel burning from happening. And these are also commercial grade A panels. These also have what's called auto power and source recovery, which I should have mentioned in the other series as well, because those UMBS series models also have that same feature. So these not only will power back on when if there's a power outage and the power comes back, but it'll also go back to the source, exact source that it was showing. So if you had the source showing on HDMI, for instance, it'll go back to showing HDMI rather than going back to like a factory default kind of a thing. So it basically prevents you from having to do like a human prevention if you're not there to go and change the source as necessary. If there's a power outage and the power comes back on and it's not showing the same image that I was showing, obviously that's going to be a problem. So this series also available in 49 and 55 inches. So these are going to be more expensive. The thing to remember with these video monitors is that a lot of it is aesthetics. So it's not so much the functions and even the interfaces and things like that that are available. What constitutes more for more money on these video monitors is just how thin these bezels are. That's where the majority of the cost difference is. So this is only, I would recommend for projects that really require as thin as possible, because once again, some bid tenders will say 0.9 millimeter bezel or thinner. So in that case, this will be the choice or the direction to go with. But otherwise, this is not always necessary for your video wall projects, because ultra thin bezel at 1.2 millimeters is also very, very thin, even though not as thin as this. Beyond that, we also have the EHB series. These are also available in 49 and 55 inches. The only difference between this and ENB series really is that this has higher brightness. And sometimes that's another requirement that's sort of typical with bids, and especially government bids. They're basically benchmarking it on certain make and model that's out there. So for instance, if they're benchmarking Barco or something like that, then they'll usually have these higher requirements. And not only just thinnest bezel possible, 0.9 millimeters, but also high brightness at 700 nits. So the other two models are 500 nits. So 700 nits is obviously a little bit brighter. And that's going to be a noticeable difference. So if there's a requirement for higher brightness, then this would be the model to go to. And these are once again also available in 49 and 55 inches. So that pretty much covers all of our video wall monitors lineup. Sometimes we also have we have different models that are available that have much thicker bezels that are not typically used or not always used as video monitors, but we do have those other monitors as well, which I will go into a little bit later. But I want to start with these video wall monitors that are actually designated as video wall monitors. So once again, we have three different series in the lineup: UNBS, EHB, and ENB. And all of those are available in 49 or 55 inches. Okay, so moving on. We just launched so we had for the longest time, what we call a Pro Series. That Pro Series of video wall processors has been updated this year to a newer platform. So we're no longer relying on Windows. Windows 7 was just getting too old, and we had a lot of complaints from people that said, Windows 7 is just getting really outdated, and we might not even get support for Windows 7 for much longer. So as a long-term investment, that is a concern for us. So we had to eventually migrate to a non-Windows platform for our video wall processors. But in turn, we are able to offer more flexibility in terms of numbers of inputs and outputs that we can add on these single servers, as well as being more cost effective. So we are now more cost effective than our previous Pro Series on all of our models. So that's definitely a good thing, especially given that we're a value. Uh, our what we offer with our solution with the video walls. The number one thing that we always tout is a value proposition. So we were always on the more cost effective side with the video processors, but now we're even more cost effective than before. So this just kind of goes over some basic information about the new series. So Pro Series is a FPGA design professional high performance image processing. So these are just more technical jargons. I will have this presentation available as a attachment that I can send out. So you can read this later if you want to get into more specifics of the solution. But main thing, so let me just go over the product highlights. So once again, this is not running on Windows anymore. Oh, sorry about that. Didn't mean to go back and forth like that. So now in this Pro ST series, we can support up to 24 inputs and 32 outputs on a single server. We couldn't do that before on a single server with our previous version of Pro Series. But now we're able to go up to, once again, 24 inputs and 32 outputs on a single server. So we can actually support a pretty large wall. So we can go up to 32 monitors total in a video wall. However that works out as far as what the configuration is, and up to 24 a number of inputs. That's pretty impressive. Our maximum before was, I believe, 16 inputs and 24 outputs. So we definitely went up a lot from our previous version. So these are pluggable structure and high integration of chassis. So these are available in either 4U or 6U type chassis. That just indicates the size of the chassis. But hot pluggable means that these are all card based. So as you can see in the picture, we can add number of different cards as necessary for inputs and outputs. And it's hot pluggable, meaning it's like almost hot swappable. Even when the server is running, you can still add more cards if you need to add more number of inputs or outputs. So that's something that we couldn't previously do with our previous version of Pro Series servers. So another improvement there. And this is pure hardware structure, so there's no operating system, and that just renders the solution way more reliable. There's things that can go wrong with Windows. It's not even just the reliability on how we build the servers, but on the software level, if the Windows has problems, obviously the whole solution is going to suffer. So we don't have that sort of a stability and susceptibility issues that comes with having Windows as operating system anymore. So that's another big advantage over there. Advanced remote control via TCP IP. So it's the same concept where you're running a CMS on a separate PC to remote into the main server to control it, which means you don't have to be on site to control the video wall server. As long as you have network connectivity to that server, you can actually remotely control it from a remote location as well. These also have serial control for RS-232. So if you need to do more sophisticated things based on RS-232 commands, like so for instance, alarm trigger and things like that, and the alarm trigger response. If this alarm goes off, then it should trigger this function to go off. So that's sort of RS-232 controls are also available. And optional text and logo, that's not really all that important. And these all come with 3-year warranty. So it's the same as our previous version of the Pro servers, but these will come with 3 years parts and labor warranty. So beyond our Pro ST series, we also have a Pro Max series. So these are even higher performance. So this is something, this series is more focused on larger scale video wall. Let me just go over the highlights. The maximum inputs and outputs. This can actually go up to 128 inputs and 128 outputs. So if you're working on a really large video wall opportunity for, like, say, like a a soccer stadium or something like that, where the wall is just going to be huge, then this can be configured as a single server. And if we go with the 4K option, this Pro Max series, it's actually able to support 4K. Then we can go up to maximum 64 inputs and 64 outputs. So that's a pretty large number of inputs and outputs that can be supported from a single server. And as you can see from the picture, these can be configured as large, very large, physically large servers. So I'm not sure what that comes out to be. I think that's like a 10U size server. So that can pretty much kind of take up the whole entire rack in a server room. But the important thing is that we can go up to maximum, once again, 128 inputs and 128 outputs. And not a lot of video wall manufacturers will offer this kind of a option. So this is really impressive as far as the number of or the amount of flexibility that you have from a single series of servers to be able to go up to this number of inputs and outputs. This also touts the same hot pluggable structure, so we can actually add more number of inputs and output cards as necessary. And once again, this is all pure hardware structure, so there's no operating system, and this renders it way more reliable. Once again, you don't have any Windows issues and things like that. Same concept here. The CMS runs on a separate PC, and then you can remote into it using via network. So, and same RS-232 controls are available, so you can control certain RS-232 functions, and then have certain alarm inputs or outputs triggered. This also will provide redundant power supplies. So if there's any kind of a power failure with the primary power supply, the secondary power supply will kick in as a failover. The failover time is like literally within seconds. So there should be no interruption in the operations. Even if that just means that the server will not go down because of a power supply failure, because the second power supply will kick in as soon as the first one, within seconds. The second will kick in as soon as it detects failure with the primary power supply. And these will also come with 3-year warranty. This is a diagram, network diagram that shows typical connection on video wall using Pro Series. So that's your main server right there. Through its outputs, it's connecting to the monitors. Through its input sources, it's getting different input source, such as PCs, Blu-ray, media box, through different interfaces, DVI, HDMI, and so forth, VGA even. You also have the ability to get analog cameras through analog connections, so BNCs, which is not always an option with these kinds of processors. And there's your separate PC that's running the CMS software to remote into the controller to control the main functions of the processor over here. Okay, now moving on to our MB series. So MB stands for multi-viewer. So just to quickly explain what these are, Viewz multi-viewer servers are cost-effective video wall processor solution that's designed to work with Ibxt Series and other daisy-chainable video wall monitors. Not just Viewz monitors, but any other monitors that have the daisy chain capability. So this is, once again, a cost-effective way of doing video wall. If you just need very basic, and if you don't really require, once again, individual outputs to the monitors in a home run configuration, if you have, say, like a smaller video wall that goes up to like maybe 8 monitors total in a 4x2 configuration, let's say, then this is a really ideal way of doing video wall in a cost-effective way. So MB401 model supports 4 inputs, so you can actually have up to 4 different input sources plug in or connect to the server to be displayed, and then 1 output will go to 1 monitor, and then from there it'll daisy chain to the other monitors. So once again, the daisy chain, if you daisy chain monitors, typically the signal will be good up to about 8 monitors, and from there you have to use some kind of a impedance booster to boost the signal, because after there's going to be some kind of a signal drop beyond 8 monitors. That's typically what happens if you run a single signal into a monitor and then daisy chain from there. So, but for smaller video wall configurations, up to 8 monitors, once again, so that shouldn't be a problem. MB802 is a 8 input 2 output model, so you don't always need the 2 outputs, but if you need to perhaps lighten the load per each output, then you can do up to 2 separate outputs, so that you can drive certain contents to one set of monitors through one output, and then the other set of monitors, you can send images to those monitors through the second output. So it once again kind of alleviates the load if you have a lot of inputs that you want to display. Once again, you're dealing with signal strength and things like that. That's why sometimes it is necessary to do 2 separate outputs. And in which case, and if you also need more than 4 inputs, then this will be the model to go with. So MB802. Um, so let me just so these are what the products actually look like. They look slightly different. So the 401 model actually has the buttons that you can actually press on the unit itself to go to certain different display modes. So single image mode, quad mode. So you can see in the diagrams shown below the buttons what the individual display modes are. So this is a really easy, more hardware-based way of doing things. This also comes with the CMS software that you can that lets you control certain functions over the network by remoting into these units. But the idea was to be able to simply just click buttons to get to certain functions with the 401 model. MV802, you unfortunately have to rely on the software to control the functionalities. So it's not the same as the 401 model, but so that's the main difference between the 2 models, besides the fact that one has more inputs and outputs than the other. So once again, this is a cost-effective way of doing video wall if you don't want to go with a full-scale video wall processor. And we actually have bundles as available as video wall kits in our pricing. So if you just want to go with a simple, like a 2x2 video wall configuration, and you just don't want to really think about specing individual part numbers, you just want to go with one model number for everything included, video wall monitors, processor, and the mount, then we do have those bundles available as video wall kits with these processors, Ibxt Series processors. And that's a typical diagram that shows the connectivity. We also, so that covers the processors and the video wall monitors. So we also have video wall accessories. So everything from mounts. So these XMS mounts, these are spring-loaded scissor type mounts made specifically for mounting video wall monitors. And they also even come with a alignment tool to make sure that everything is aligned correctly. The important thing to remember with video installation is if the monitors don't align properly, then you're going to have funny gaps and funny angles and things like that. So aligning these mounts perfectly so that you don't have these funny gaps is absolutely important. So you need things like level and things like that to be able to make sure that you're perfectly in 90 degrees and things like that. For instance, if you're slightly off, that's a problem. You're going to have to take all of these other monitors around it down, ones that are in the middle. So the pop out capability will let you pop out just that one monitor in the middle by gently pushing on that monitor, and then it'll basically, with the springs, pop out. So it'll give you access to the back of the monitor, and you can get to, the connections and things like that as necessary to, replug in the cable if it came undone, or if the cable is bad, then you can change the cable. But you don't have to do that by taking all the monitors down, which is, a huge headache if everything's already been installed. So VZ1TRX, these are what we call a HDMI signal extender. So if the distance between the video wall monitors and the processor is longer than what the typical HDMI signal run allows for, HDMI signal run typically goes for 50 feet. I typically recommend even less than that. I typically recommend that HDMI run is no longer than about 30 feet before you, because typically you may have signal run issues if you go beyond that distance. So if you need to go beyond that kind of a distance, the HDMI extender is something that allows you to go up to maximum 394 feet distance-wise. So the way that works, so you would connect to one HDMI source for the monitor to a TX, which is the sender, and from the TX, it'll connect to the RX, which is the receiver unit, via Cat5 or Cat6 connection. So it uses Cat5 or Cat6, and then that's how it's able to go up to maximum 394 feet. And then from there, on the receiver side, it'll plug into the processor, or whichever on the receiving end the device is, and it'll connect to that device via HDMI. So it's HDMI to Cat5 or Cat6, and then HDMI back out again. And these are really cost-effective way of extending your range. Once again, if you're dealing with a pretty long distance between the video monitors and the processor, this is definitely the way to do it. So we also do custom mounts. So this is something that I always mention with our presentation, but we have a custom fabrication division that makes these custom mounts. And sometimes your standard mounts is not going to be satisfactory for the project, depending on what the project is. So for instance, if you're dealing with like a design like this where things need to be angled, so not just flat against the wall, but if some monitors need to be in a angle like this, we do make these kinds of mounts that are basically, we can make any mount as necessary. Also, we can make cladding and things like that to cover all the metal parts. So, it's like almost like building a furniture around the entire video wall to conceal some of the metal parts and things like that. We can pretty much do anything. So whatever your requirement is, we can basically survey that requirement and then basically come up with our own design and everything to meet those requirements. These are some of the larger video walls that we've done in the past, just as an example of some of the video walls that we've done. So this is obviously a monitoring station. So that's a lot of number. I forget how many exactly, but that's a large video wall with many monitors. So we've done large projects like this in the past, and we can certainly help you with these kinds of large projects with with your opportunities that you have. This is a Department of Water and Power, I believe. So they have certain flow charts and things like that that they display in any kind of what we call SCADA information, SCADA server information. So we do those applications as well. It's not always security. So if you have opportunities with something like that, like Department of Water and Power, they also need video walls. And I believe that's pretty much across the board, not just here in the US, but also in Latin America as well. So, and that's the cladding that I was talking about. So we can, once again, build pretty much like a furniture. And it doesn't always have to be like this kind of wood, or it could be pretty much anything. So whatever you require, once, or as long as we know what your requirements are, we can come up with a design and everything, and we can pretty much make anything happen. That's what custom shops are for. So okay, so now moving on to our Ibxt series. So this is something that we just also introduced actually starting last year. So this is a new product line for us as well. We're seeing a lot of school districts and also like companies with their corporate meeting rooms, and sometimes, depending on what your organization is, your meeting room is something that is for training, for instance. So these are basically what we call smart boards. So these are basically like digital whiteboards that are um, touch screen, not only touch screen, but also have very smart features built into them. So let's get started with the Ibxt series. So these are smart interactive boards that are designed to perfectly cater to presentation and educational applications. So once again, it caters to school districts, classrooms, corporations and their meeting rooms, or any kind of organization where they have training in a large meeting room setting, or a lecture hall at a college, that sort of a thing. So these are available as larger sizes. Obviously, these have to be large. So 75, 86, and 98 inches. And support array of digital whiteboard features such as handwriting, so you can actually write with your hand. It also comes with a stylus, which is like basically a fake pen. So you can use that pen as well. That has like a rubber tip also, so it doesn't obviously damage the monitor when you're using it. And also wireless content sharing from external devices. So you can actually use like for instance, like a Google Chrome. So you do need a third-party application to do this, but if you have something like that, then you can plug in that Google Chrome into the IBXT monitor using its USB connection, and then screencast from your phone or what have you. And that's the same thing with like Apple. If you have like Apple TV, then you can use your phone or something like that to screencast to this monitor. So another useful feature to have. And also, you can obviously use hardwired connection from your external PC and things like that to display anything on that PC. The thing with connecting to a monitor like this from screencast, whether you're doing screencast wirelessly or connecting via hardware, is that once it's on the monitor, so let's say you're connecting your PC via hardware connection through HDMI into the monitor, and you're running, say, a PowerPoint presentation. Once it's up on the monitor, then you can control everything from the monitor by touch screen. So that's the advantage of this kind of a smart board. So even if you're just merely connecting your PC into the monitor, from there, you can take over from the monitor and then do everything from the monitor and use your hand or stylus to write on it or control the functions via touch. So these monitors are multi-touch, obviously, but they support 20 touch points. So if you're one single person, you have 10 fingers. So you can use all 10 fingers. If you have a second person, that second person can also use all 10 fingers to do whatever they want. So it'll recognize up to 20 separate touch points simultaneously. So if someone's writing on one side, the other person can still be drawing something on the other side of the monitor at the same time. And that's the advantage of having up to 20 points on a single monitor like this. It also supports multiple operating systems. So by default, these are running on Android OS. So these are Android devices. Imagine they're like giant tablets, if you will. But it also comes with what's called an OPS module. So these OPS module or OPS modules, these are modules that can go separately. So it's like basically like a card that you can slot into what's called an OPS slot. So once that OPS is plugged in, that OPS has Windows 10 running on it, also with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of solid state disk for storage. So you can actually run Windows and also run Windows applications or Windows programs such as Windows Office to run PowerPoint, Windows Excel, that sort of a thing, Outlook. And if you're running on Mac, I mean, if your OPS is running on Mac, and you can get these configured to be Windows or Mac or Linux. That's your choice. So depending on the OS, it'll run corresponding applications that come with that OPS. So yeah, once again, if you're running Windows on that OPS, you can pretty much run all Windows operations and applications. Excuse me, True Digital Whiteboard. So True Digital Whiteboard boarding solution that supports stylus and handwriting and comes with an advanced writing app. So it comes with obviously some things to help you write whatever you're writing or drawing and things like that. Content sharing, once again, you can do hardwire or wireless content sharing, which is what's called screencasting. These are also commercial grade monitors, so they're grade A panels. They're 4K in resolution as well, so high resolution. Obviously, when you're viewing videos and things like that, especially like high resolution 4K videos and things like that, it looks impressive on these larger monitors. And even if you're running videos and things like that, you can actually pause it. With your handwriting capability, you can write notes on top of the video. Like, so let's say you're watching a YouTube video, you can actually pause the video and then start writing notes on it. So and then you can like draw an arrow to point at certain things, like, hey, that's what that is, in the video. So for educational purposes and things like that, it is really advanced with those kinds of features. So once again, the applications are for schools and corporation meeting rooms, anything that has anything to do with, presentations or training, things like that, educational. This is a really great solution. And once again, we're a value proposition. So there are a lot more cost-effective solutions out there. We're definitely on the more cost-effective side. At least here in the U.S., we're seeing a lot more uptick in opportunities where these kinds of solutions are required. So if you ever come across a school district or corporation where they have multiple buildings and things like that, and in their meeting rooms they need a solution like this, we have this product, or we have the product for that smart digital whiteboard. So yeah, once again, we have 3 different sizes available: 75, 86, and 98 inches. Okay, now we're kind of going out of sequence. This presentation was put in a different order, so than typically how I go about presenting these. I usually start with the video products first. So let me just go with some of our other monitors, and then I'll go into some of our specialty products. I don't want to make this too long, but so now going with our Ibxt series. So these are our hybrid professional CCTV metal bezel monitors. So these are really popular as a couple different applications. Sometimes these monitors go into a lot of correctional facilities, so like jails and things like that, because metal bezel means these are more ruggedized and they can actually take the beating more so than plastic bezel monitors. So typically, that just means the monitor is more ruggedized and is once again able to withstand the rigors of certain applications. So these are available in 24, 27, 32, and 43. What's interesting about these monitors, not only do they offer BNC for analog camera, so you can actually direct connect an analog camera to display on these monitors, which then becomes basically a public view monitor. So that's one of the more popular applications with these monitors, is that they connect directly to your analog cameras to display those cameras. But also, these are hybrid monitors, so these will also recognize high definition analog signals. So CVI, TVI, and AHD are also supported. So if you have those type of cameras as well, you can actually direct connect those cameras to this monitor to be displayed on this monitor. Once again, if you have like a public view monitor application, like let's say you're a supermarket or like a store, this is a really nice feature. If you already have if the supermarket already has a certain type of CVI or TVI camera, whether that's Hikvision or Dahua or some other brand, or AHD is usually Samsung or Hanwha, yeah, these monitors are able to um, support those signals. So um, that's a very great feature to have. These also have auto power and source recovery. So if there's any kind of a power outage, not only will these power back on, but it'll go back to the source that it was showing. Another thing about these is that these have what's called 4:3 aspect ratio mode. So if you have a camera, analog camera, that's going to be a 4:3 aspect ratio, which is going to be more like a square versus a wider rectangle, which is typically 16:9 monitors. So rather than stretching that image to look funny, uh, it'll basically put black bars on either side of the monitors. So to keep that camera view or image in a 4:3 aspect native resolution without stretching it once again. So that's a really good feature to have. And these also have 3D comb filter and deinterlacing and built-in speakers even. So if you with the built-in media player, these also have a USB type media player. So if you're playing like a video or something like that, then it'll actually play it with audio as well. So there's many different applications that these monitors can support. So once again, these HX series models are available 24, 27, 32, and 43 inches. So we also have another series called UHD series. These are 4K monitors. So that literally UHD stands for ultra high definition. So the thing that's unique about these 4K monitors that we have in this UHD series is that they have what's called quad input capability with quad viewing. So that means we can actually literally show 4 different things on the same monitor from 4 different input sources, which basically becomes like a smaller scale video wall. So if you have like a very simple video wall application and you just need to basically show 4 different inputs in this very simple fashion like this, then this is a very, very cost effective way of doing it without needing any kind of a separate processor. So these are available in 43, 55, and 65. So earlier I was mentioning that sometimes we use other monitors that are not typically strictly video wall monitors for video applications. So sometimes we do have video wall projects where we quote these UHD monitors if the bezel width is not that important for video wall, meaning you don't need the customer doesn't really mind the thick bezels, then we do have these as more cost-effective way of doing video wall monitors options. So once again, available in 43, 55, and 65. These all support 4K resolution, so that's higher resolution than actually our regular wall video wall monitors. These have both HDMI 2.0 and 1.4 connections, display ports, and DVD ID. So, and DVD ID actually is only on 65 UHD model, but actually I take that back. DVD ID is actually available on all 3 sizes. I'm not sure why that information is in there, but so you can actually have something that's DVI connection, input source wise, or display port, let's say a PC, and HDMI. And these can all be shown in, once again, a quad fashion like this. So each section in a quad becomes 1080p resolution. So that's still very high resolution on its own. But if you're just showing a single source on these monitors, then you can go up to its maximum resolution, which is 4K, which is 3840 by 2160. And there's other display modes available besides just a quad. So you can actually do picture by picture, picture in picture. So picture in picture is obviously, if you have a single image, you can also have a smaller image in the corner like this. Picture by picture is obviously single picture on one side and the other picture on the other side, or video. So there's other display modes, once again, if that's what you need. And but the most popular application for these monitors, once again, is either as more cost-effective way of video wall monitors if you don't really mind the thick bezel. Um, but once again, if you just need to do a really simple, smaller scale video wall, this is a really good product that doesn't need any other components, meaning it doesn't need a separate processor. You don't need a separate CMS running on a separate PC to control anything. Everything is controlled from the monitor itself. It is very simple. This, I mean, if you want to show four things at once, this is pretty much all you can do. So you can't really make this second view larger than the other three, for instance, and then have it just take up more space or anything like that. So that's where things are limited. But if that's not a problem, if showing your four input sources like this in a quad fashion is good enough, then this is a really, really cost-effective way of doing a video wall. So, especially if you have limited desktop or wall space, so if you're like a retail, the loss prevention room is usually going to be pretty cramped. It's not a usually very spacey environment. So you have very limited wall space and desktop space once again. So this is a solution that basically addresses those kinds of applications where you just need something really simple once again for video wall, and you just need to show four input sources on a single monitor. This is a great option to do that with. So once again, available in 43, 55, and 65 inches. We also have a pretty cost-effective CMP series. So these are the CMP series is available. The smallest size that we have is 19 inches in that series, but these are some of the larger sizes that are very popular for certain applications that we deal with. So these 32 and 43 inch models, they are another really cost-effective way of doing public view monitors using a separate analog camera. So just to go over some of the highlights, these are commercial grade panels, but these are plastic bezels, so they're definitely cheaper than your metal bezel monitors. Like, so for instance, our HX series is they're higher in price than these CMP models. So if you don't need the metal bezel and things like that, then this is a cheaper option, 32 and 43 inch options. These don't have the hybrid capability, so you can't use CVI, TVI, or HD cameras or otherwise. But if you just have a regular analog camera, then this will connect using a BNC. So and it's a BNC input and output, so it's a looping BNC. So you can have one camera connect to the monitor, and then from there you can output it to a DVR to be recorded. So the monitor can sit in the middle of that signal chain. These are also going to be wide viewing angle. That's important for these kinds of monitors, especially if they're mounted on a pole from a ceiling or something like that. If you're looking at it from off to the side, you definitely don't want to have distorted views. You want to have the same view that you're getting directly in front of the monitor, as well as when you're standing a little bit off to the side. And once again, these can be used for a variety of different commercial and security applications. So security operator's desk, public view monitor, once again, if you connect the external analog camera to it, you can also use it as some kind of a signage, but this is a really cost-effective 32 and 43 inch monitor options that we offer. And if you're using it as a public view monitor, this is a very popular way of doing it. So once again, the CCTV, the analog camera would connect to it, and this is the back of the unit. So it would go into the BNC in, and then from BNC out from the monitor, you could loop it back out to a DVR to be recorded. And typically when you go to like a supermarket or like a retail like applications, not most of the times, a lot of the times you'll see something like this where it's one of these kinds of monitors, and then there's like a dome camera right above the monitor. Because a lot of the times the camera, they want the view to be something that's directly in front of the monitor. So whether that's so if this is at a front door of a store, they want to show people walking in to let them know, like, hey, as you're walking in the store, you are being watched. So that is going to be usually or sometimes even below the monitor. But usually, I think it's more popular to see these kinds of dome cameras on the pole above the monitor. So that becomes a cost-effective way of doing a public view monitor with these monitors. So once again, these are popular applications. Ceiling mounted for public view monitor application at like a retail store or supermarket, loss prevention back room or security room, and retails. I mean, yeah. And these are just some of the examples. So now let me move to our public view monitors and some of the some of our other specialty items, and then that's pretty much going to be the presentation. So another thing that Viewz is well known for is our public view monitors. So this is our N series public view monitors. So these are available as either analog or IP, although we're seeing a lot more projects now just all moving to IP versus analog versions. So the difference really between the analog versions and the IP versions of this product is that IP versions will have the IP cameras. The analog versions will be non-IP cameras, which means they're not able to stream over the network. These larger size PVM N series PVMs are going to be available in 23-inch, 27-inch, and 32-inch models, and they are going to come either as white or black options. Some of the highlights with our IP PVMs: we are compatible with a lot of NVR and VMS platforms out there. So if you can think of any major ones, whether that's, let me just go to that list. The Vigilon, Genetec, Axis, Milestone, Hikvision, Dawa, OpenEye. These are all really well-known MVRs and VMS platforms out there. Exact, 3X Logic. So we're all compatible with all of these major VMS and MVR platforms. Sorry about skipping around. Not sure why we went the other way, but I'm going to go this way. So, and these cameras are going to be 2.1 megapixel resolution, so 1080p. So these can actually stream at 1080p resolution and 30 frames per second. So you get pretty non-choppy and high quality images to be recorded to your VMS or NVR. And the lenses that are built into these cameras or these PVMs are going to be also varifocal lenses. So they're 2.8 to 12 millimeter lenses, so you can actually adjust the focal of these lenses as necessary. This is actually outdated information. We've actually switched to acrylic from glass, because glass was actually unreliable, and a lot of these in shipping would break, unfortunately. So we switched to acrylic, which turned out to be a lot more reliable. So it's no longer glass. So this portion needs to be updated. But and these are also IPS panels for wide angle viewing, so 178 degrees. Once again, these are going to be mounted on a pole usually. So even if you're watching it or looking at it from off the side, you're not going to get the distorted view. These also have 600 TV line analog output. So if you need to loop back out to like a local DVR, so not only do you have the capability to stream over the network to be recorded to a VMS, but if you connect it to like your local DVR, then you also have a local recording just in case something happens with your network and your camera goes down for 5 minutes. During that 5 minutes, something can happen, and so you definitely need some other secondary means of recording the video. So if that's important, then you have the option to do TV line out to record to your local DVR. Although it's going to be at 600 TV resolution, which is obviously a lot lower than your 1080p resolution. These also have a player. So if you order these PVMs with optional media player, you also have the ability to show advertising or any kind of signage. So if you're retail, obviously You have the means to show any advertising. If you're doing a special promotion for a certain brand within your store, then you can run that ad, and you can even charge your customer for running those ads. So it becomes a revenue generating tool as well if you're a retail. And you can have source switching upon motion detection. So if the monitor, if the PVM is typically showing the camera image, once someone approaches and the camera detects motion, it'll switch to advertising to show advertising when someone approaches the PVM, or vice versa. So you can have it showing advertising at all times. When someone approaches, it switches to camera. And when someone walks away, after about 5 seconds, it goes back to whatever it was showing. So you can do this kind of, you can program this kind of a source switching based on motion detection of the camera. These also have power and source recovery. So if there's any kind of a power outage, not only will it power back up, but it'll also go back to the exact source that it was showing. So if it was showing camera, then it'll go back to showing camera. If it was showing advertising, then it'll go back to showing advertising after the power comes back on. There's also a blinking recording in progress message that you can display. You can also take that off if you don't want to show it, but that's a clear message to people saying, hey, you are being recorded. So I would think twice before you do anything stupid. It's a theft or any kind of it's a deterrence for people to do anything stupid within your retail space or wherever you are. These are also dual power, so not only will it power up with 110-volt AC, which means it's a computer power cord that it comes with. So if you have a power outlet or power available, readily available where the PVM is going to be located, then you can use that power cord to connect to it. But if the power is not available where the PVM is located, so if you have a large store and you're installing this in the middle of the large showroom floor, chances are you're not going to have any power right there. There's no power outlet on the ceiling. What do? You need to do what's called long distance power. So these are also powered by DC power. So you can do long distance 24 DC, and you can, I think the maximum distance is like close to 400 feet. So that's a pretty long distance. So you can actually, you do need a separate 24 volt long distance power supply to do that, which we sell separately as an option. But if that's what you need to do, and in many retail cases, or if you're doing these PVM installations in a large place and there's no a power readily available where the PVM is located, or you're a supermarket, what have you, usually you're going to have to run long distance power. So this is a really good option to have. These are once again available in 23, 27, and 32 inches, and either as black or white models. Analog models, really the only difference is that these are non-IP cameras, so they're not made to stream over the network. Pretty much everything else stays the same. So it's the same camera at 2 megapixels. It's just not networkable, and it's not able to transmit and be recorded to a VMS. But you do have the same option to loop out of the 600 TV lines to record to your local PVM if you need to, or your DVR rather. And the same with auto power and source recovery, blinking recording in progress message, same dual power 110 volt or 24 volt DC, and also 23, 27, 32 inches available either in black or white options. I'm going to skip all these portions. I think I went over most of the things that you need to know about these PVMs. So now moving on to our 10-inch PVM. So these are our 10-inch IP PVM options. So these are what we call close range PVMs, whereas the larger ones, 23, 27, and 32 inches, those are called broad range PVMs, meaning they're usually mounted on a pole on the ceiling and made to be more in a broad range. But these are made to be more eye level contact, closer to where the people are, that sort of a thing. Because obviously, the screen is smaller, so you do have to be closer to it to be able to see anything. So these are, if you go to like places like Home Depot, which is like a hardware store, or any kind of a supermarket even, or like where there's different aisles, these are going to be something that's either going to be aisle level, and we have mounts that actually cater to that sort of a application. So let's say you're a supermarket. You're going to have on each aisle like 4 to 5 shelves. So this would literally slot into one of the slats that are that the shelves are also mounting on. So we do have those kinds of mounts available so that they can actually be that these PVMs can be actually mounted right where the shelves are, so that when people are walking by, they can actually see these things at an eye level. These are going to be way more focused on eye level marketing, basically. So if you're running advertising and you're promoting a certain brand, so like let's say you're a supermarket and you're promoting a certain brand of coffee or something like that, then you can run ads for that coffee brand and actually charge. Once again, it becomes a revenue generating tool to run those ads for them, and you're also doing a promotion on that brand and item while also recording from the camera. And then you can actually have that advertising switch to camera view once again when people are approaching, or vice versa. So these come with the same sort of features as the larger PVMs, but it's just a smaller, made to be eye level marketing and IO level sort of an application. The cameras are going to be 2.1 megapixel as well, but these are going to be pinhole cameras, so they're going to be actually smaller. So typically, this is what you see. Like for instance, if you go to like a supermarket, I believe in even in Latin America also, there's a lot more self checkouts nowadays where people are just basically checking out. There's no supermarket cashier that they have to always deal with. So this is a popular store in America called Target. So this is where, if you see over here, these are the smaller PVMs that are mounted. So this is a popular application. If you're a supermarket, same kind of a thing. As you're self-checking out, you have this monitor right here basically capturing people at their face level. So you get the face shots. And if anything becomes a problem later on, if you need to prosecute somebody, then you have a good face shot that you just recorded from the unit. And once again, these are IP cameras, so they actually are made to do the same exact thing where they transmit over the network and record to a VMS. These also have power loss alarm, door open alarm, and all these different kinds of alarms that can go off. Because these are actually within reach of people usually, that means there's more likelihood that people will actually try to tamper with these things and try to mess them up or something like that, or hit them or something like that. So there's going to be these alarms that go off with a loud sound to basically let everyone know, like, hey, something just happened to me, sort of a thing. And the blinking recording in progress message is also programmable on these things as well. And these also have power and source recovery. This is a slightly different solution as far as power is concerned. So these actually are powered by what's called PoE, which is power over the Ethernet. So we have what's called a PoE injector that we sell separately from these monitors to power these monitors. But otherwise, if you're a retail and you already have your PoE switches, you can actually run cables, Cat5 or Cat6 cables from that switch to power these PVMs. But otherwise, you would need some kind of a PoE injector to power these things. So these are popular applications, once again, retail, hardware stores, and you would literally see these things mounted on a shelf like this, and it's made to be, once again, eye level. Supermarket checkouts, self checkouts, cosmetic stores are really popular for something like this also. Or you have your large department store or Walmart or something like that. Typically, you'll see these things where they're promoting a certain specific brand. And also convenience stores like this, gas stations, where right near the self checkout or the cashier, you're getting people's face shots with these smaller PVMs, but also running advertising, like whatever you're promoting, especially things you want to remind people before they check everything out at the cashier, like, hey, don't forget to get a pack of gum or something like that. So there's many different applications that these products can cater to, but those are the more popular applications for these things. Now, this is our brand new product in the public view monitor portion of our products. This is what we call smart ad PVMs. So these are PVMs that are portrait shaped. They could be obviously mounted like this in a portrait fashion or in a horizontal way with the camera either to the left or the right. The thing with these products is that these are way more focused on advertising than your regular public view monitors. And these actually have networkable CMS driven advertising capabilities. So the thing with this is that if you're a large retail organization or if you're any kind of a larger organization where you are controlling digital advertising or digital signage from a single location or your main office, by your office, your individual locations are all over the United States, all over Colombia, wherever you are all over Mexico, wherever you are, whatever country you are in. If you're in a single location, you need to deploy digital advertising or digital signage to multiple devices over the network from a single location. This is definitely a very, very effective way of doing that. And also, it looks very elegant. And so it elevates the, if you're retail, for instance, elevates the retail environment with its elegant looks and everything, but also it's once again primary purpose is to drive advertising content. So you can actually from a single location once again push out any kind of advertising in real time over to many different locations from a single location. So that's the idea with the CMS software. So as this map shows, from a single location, you can actually push out contents to all these different locations over the network. So that's what we call P2P and P2MP, point to point or point to point or point to multi-point. That's what that stands for. Another thing about this solution is that it could be either cloud-based or server-based, meaning you could actually run contents on your own server, meaning you can store all your advertising contents and things like that on your own server and manage your own network and manage your contents that way, your digital advertising. But you can also use cloud. So if you don't want to run your own server, then you can just basically subscribe to a cloud service, upload everything to your server, and from that cloud server, you can push out all the different contents to multiple locations. These are available in 32 and 43-inch models, also available in black and white. So these are all the different orientation modes and display modes that are available. So you can actually do horizontal view like this, portrait mode, and all these other different options. This CMS software is pretty much like our sort of like our video wall CMS software, where you can design the contents like this, where you can have one source in a large fashion like this, and then the other source is smaller. So you can actually have up to one video section, and that one video section can play many, many videos. So you can create one video section and then queue up 5 different videos to show back to back. So once you program it that way, what it'll do is it'll show 5 videos in a row and then keep going in that cycle. Same thing with static images. You can actually show many different images in a single image section that you create. So you can have it cycle through different images every 10 seconds. The time interval between the switching, you can actually program that also. So you can actually have up to one video section, 2 different image sections, and also you can show a separate thing of a logo. Like if you're a company, you can show a company logo. You can also show any kind of a URL based contents, meaning if you want to show something like a news channel, then you can basically type in that URL for that channel. So let's say you want to show CNN, then you can create a section where it would just basically showing CNN 24 hours a day. And you can also obviously have the camera view within the whole entire thing. So you can actually have the camera, and camera could be also sized any way you like. So if you want the camera to be smaller, you can make the camera view smaller and then put it right here off the side, or dead center if you want the camera to be the focus. But the important thing is the CMS software lets you create different templates in arrays like this and make you or allows you to scale whatever you're dealing with, video or a single image, and then create larger sections for certain things, smaller sections for certain things, and then save that as template and then send that out to these devices. So that's a really unique feature, not typically available with public view monitors. So once again, if your focus is on digital signage, this is definitely a really, really effective way of doing it, especially if you're a multi-location organization like a retail. So let's say you're Walmart or somebody, and you have many, many different stores and within your country. This pretty much covers that sort of a model where from a single location you can push out the same content to every single location, or you can manage, you can break them down into sections. Hey, section A will get these advertising. Section B will get these kinds of advertising. So you can actually group them into separate groups to send out different contents even. So the management portion of it is also very, very advanced, but really user friendly and easy at the same time. So that covers all of the PVMs. I'm just going to cover two more things, and we're pretty much done with the presentation at this point. We're also known for making very specialty monitors. So these are what we call IPM series IP input monitors. So we're one of the very few companies that make something like this. So these are monitors that are available in 25, 21.5, and 32 inches. These are Android monitors, and what they're made for, they're made to be all-in-one remote viewing device. So it's something that comes with a built-in app that's compatible with over 10,000 different IP cameras. And what you can do is, rather than using a PC and a separate monitor to do remote viewing, you can just use one monitor and do everything from this single monitor without needing any other device. And you can actually view up to 9 cameras simultaneously in a motion JPEG mode. But you can also install any VMS or NVR app, as long as it's Android capable, and run that app to view whatever. If you need to view more cameras, then that's the way to do it. But if you use our built-in app, you're able to view up to 9 cameras simultaneously in its native resolution, meaning if the keys up to 1080p resolution. So you can actually view 9 cameras in 1080p or 2 megapixel resolution at 30 frames. So you're not really getting any compromised images that are lower resolution and lower number of frames, which is typically the case if you use like a VMS or NVR app, because typically those apps are made to run or give you more camera views as necessary. But if you use our built-in app with this product, then you can view up to 9 cameras simultaneously, or you can put it in a single camera mode and have it sequence to through different cameras that you have every 5 seconds, every 10 seconds, that kind of a thing. And once again, the built-in app supports 10,000 different IP cameras. So not only is this a very great remote viewing solution, this is also only IP-based spot monitor application monitor. So if you have an application where you need to do like a spot monitor kind of a thing, where you have 9 cameras at your building and you need to basically sequence through all 9 cameras one by one, or show 9 cameras simultaneously. So if you're a warehouse or something like that, and someone's not always at the front door, and someone needs to keep an eye on the front door camera at all times, and you're in the warehouse, this is a perfect way to do it with a IP camera. There's no other way to do that. Only other way you can do that is to use like once again, like a separate PC and do remote viewing that way. But you can actually do that from one single monitor rather than buying a separate PC and a monitor to do that with. So not only is it more cost effective to do it that way, but it's also a lot simpler. So once again, these are available in 21.5 and 32-inch models. We've done a lot of retail projects with this product, and also these are really popular for restaurant drive-throughs, where they're keeping an eye on a couple different cameras at all times. Sometimes these cameras help manage how fast the drive-through moves, especially if there's a lot of cars in the drive-through and things like that. So there's a bunch of different applications that this these products can serve, but those are some of the bigger projects that we're doing right now with this product. So if there's any kind of a retail product where they really need like a IP-based spot monitoring solution or all-in-one remote viewing solution, this is a really good way of doing that. Also, if you're like a cash register at a store, this is another way, so you're not really letting the customer know that you're being watched, but if you're someone behind the cash register, you're keeping an eye on all 4 cameras or 6 cameras or 9 cameras, while you're being behind the cash register for your store. So like a gas station or something like that, or convenience store, 7-Eleven, this is a perfect application for something like that. Okay, one last thing. Actually, I believe that covers everything. So trying to see if there's anything else. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we pretty much covered everything. At least all of the important monitors. We also have smaller monitors and things like that, obviously. So we're like any other commercial grade monitor manufacturers, where we offer everything from smaller 10-inch monitors to 19-inch monitors, 23-inch monitors, desktop monitors, and things of that nature. But yeah, once again, that covers everything. And so what I'll do is I will get a list of all the email addresses and send out this presentation to you so that you can review this at a later date if you need any more information. But I'm also available by email or phone call. So if you're like, for instance, in Colombia, then I'm available by, I'm actually even available by WhatsApp. I believe David Leva and Christian Blanco and a few other people have reached out to me via WhatsApp. So they should have my WhatsApp handle, and you can communicate with me via that way. But also, I'm available by email. My email is just simply John, JOHN, at viewzusa.com. V as in Victor, IEWZ, USA.com. So thank you very much. And that is the presentation.